Welcome to the Lockshield Partners Podcast. We believe in financial literacy and love to provide quality information when it comes to areas around financial planning and how it impacts your life. To learn more about what we do and how we serve our clients, visit us at lockshieldpartners.com.
Well, Dan, welcome back. We've got our third edition of our Lockshield Partners Podcast today. And today we're going to dive into a topic that is pretty well known, the 401k. So I'll let you take that and run with it. Tell us some basics of the 401k.
Yeah, so
Dan.
let's do 401k 101 today. Basics of it. So 401k is an employer-sponsored plan, meaning you have it at your work. And I think the data is almost 60% of Americans have some kind of employer-sponsored plan. Most of those are 401ks, and not to get hung up in the 401 or the K, but it's just a section of the IRS code where the IRS gives a business a benefit, tax benefit, a deduction for providing something for their employees. A 401k is for most for-profit businesses as compared to a 403b, which if you work for a university, a hospital, a nonprofit, it's essentially the same thing. And from a features point of view, that's something we want to jump in. So let me lob it back to you. You want to hit eligibility. So you find out you have a 401k. How do you know if you're eligible?
Sure. Well, so as you mentioned, a 401k is not just something that anybody can go sign up for.
That's right.
We've got to work for an employer that offers it. Once we work for an employer that offers it, there are eligibility requirements that typically come into play, and they're different for every employer. Most of the time, there's going to be an age restriction. So we have to be an adult. We got to be at least 21 to be able to do so. And sometimes it can be as restrictive as you must work there for a year in order to be eligible to participate in the plan. But some employers may choose to be less restrictive than that.
Gotcha. So they can't be more restrictive.
Right.
But if they choose to, if you run your own business and you have hired your 18-year-old and want them in the plan, you can allow that.
That's your call.
But you have to allow all 18-year-olds.
Correct.
That's
correct. It's not a case-by-case basis.
Absolutely. And there's a higher administrative cost to running a 401k. So they just want to be careful that not every person who comes in and works for 3 months gets in a plan and gets out. That's
exactly right. Yeah. 401ks could be very difficult to manage or very costly to manage for an employer if it's a company with lots and lots of turnover, Dan.
Yeah. So it's more something for the longer term. And these days we may call longer term 12 months.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Well, let's talk about one of my favorite things, which is savings rate, especially to young people. And I'm going to frame up young people as anyone under 50.
Okay.
So savings rate as a rule of thumb, and savings rate is just how much of my savings. What am I of my every dollar that I bring in? What am I setting aside for my long-term security? And a 401k is a great tool to do that. So as a rule of thumb, I like to say 15% of your gross income is a great target. And there's lots of studies and things that go back and forth as far as, do you save too much? You save too little? I think generally speaking, most people run the risk of saving not enough for retirement as compared to too much for retirement.
Dane, have you ever had a client who got to retirement and they were upset that they saved more than they needed to?
Not yet.
I haven't had one of those either.
Yeah. And we're going to touch on Roths here in a little bit, and that may alleviate some of those academic studies.
So Dan, when it comes to savings rate, so one of the unique features of a 401k is oftentimes it's not just the employee putting money into that. So employees can choose to make what the IRS calls employee deferrals, which is a fancy way of saying how much did they actively choose to contribute to that plan.
That's right.
But oftentimes the employer offers some sort of contribution too, and those can be classified as a match or a profit sharing contribution. And we don't have to get too into the weeds of the differences of those. But when it comes back to your savings rate, that 15%, does that mean, hey, employee, you have to be putting in 15%? Or is it acceptable to say employee puts in 10, employer puts in 5?
Right. So I think as a general rule of thumb, 15% is a good target all in. For those who are at the head of the class, are super savers, 15% of their contributions is a great target to shoot for. Then if your employer is putting in 4% or 5 or 6%, then it's great. The other thing is the higher percentage that you're saving, the less you're living on, which means when you go to retire, really the less amount of income you're looking at replacing. That's one of those subtle underneath the surface.
That can make a big difference.
Can make a huge difference. And one of the amazing statistics, and it's not really amazing, but it's worth noting, the percentage of people who are eligible for 401ks and the matches, but do not participate.
Do you know what that number is?
As a matter of fact, I do, Clark. It's about a third.
Really?
So 1/3 of every American who is eligible for a 401k, 17% do not participate at all, and 12% don't contribute enough to get the match. And sometimes you hear about free money.
That's free money.
That's free money. If I put in $1, my employer is going to put in $1. And now some people might say, I'm not going to plan on being there for a long time. Have you ever had a client who worked somewhere for 10 years, 20, 30 years who didn't intend on being there for a long time?
Yeah. Another way to frame that, Dan, think of it from a rate of return on your dollar. That's an automatic 100% rate of return.
That's exactly right.
I put in $1, I'm getting $1 back. So now my dollar's worth $2. That seems to make sense to me.
When we really try to get 10% over time, we're talking about 100%.
Yeah,
right off the bat.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Now let's touch on vesting, because that's an important concept.
Yeah.
So you want to? There's two main vesting concepts. You want to hit on?
Sure. So high level, Dan, before we dive into that, maybe let's just even break down what vesting means.
Yep.
So in a 401k, vesting refers to, are you able to keep the amount of money that your employer put in on your behalf?
Your employer money.
Very high level, that's what it means. When an employee chooses to defer his or her salary into the plan, that money is always theirs.
There's no vesting schedule for
There's
that.
no vesting schedule. Right. If they leave, if they separate from service, 100% of what they put in will always remain their money. The employer money is a little bit different. So I like to think of a vesting schedule as skin in the game to a certain extent. Oftentimes that's going to be based on your years of service. So if somebody works for a year or 2 years and their employer has put in money on their behalf, and that employee then leaves, they may not be fully vested according to the IRS code, meaning that if they leave, the employer gets to keep a portion or all of the money that they put into that employee's 401k account.
It's an incentive for long-term employees.
That's exactly right.
Yep. And there's 3 basic vesting schedules. One is there is no schedule. It's immediately vested.
Which is unusual.
That may be more for smaller employers. The other is a cliff schedule. And I think the IRS limits that to 3 years.
Yeah.
Nothing for the first 36 months, but then in month 37, it's all yours.
Meaning if I leave in the first 3 years, I'm not getting any of that employer match.
Just the employer match. Your money's your money.
Right.
And then the last one is the 6-year vesting schedule.
Yeah. Which is kind of a graded system.
20% every year starting in year 2.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So, but regardless of the vesting schedule, just the fact that it's a convenient way to save. The vesting, the match is the bonus.
Right.
For sure. But it is important to touch on the vesting schedule. One of the other great things about a 401k is the contribution limits, which are pretty darn good. And for high income earners who aren't eligible for Roth IRA contributions, 401k Roth, you can cram a lot of money in there.
Yeah, isn't it over $20,000, Dan?
For 2025, it's $23,500 if you're under 50. If you're over 50, it's $31,000. And with the new Secure Act 2.0, a little quirky thing, if you're between the ages of 60 and 63,
where did they come up with
this? Keep your scorecard at home. You can put in an extra $3,750.
Yeah.
So if you have a husband and wife who both have a 401k, just their contribution total, that's almost $70,000. And if they want to put that all in a Roth,
they can do that.
Put that in Roth money.
You know, Dan, another change with the Secure Act that you mentioned is that employees can now elect, or at least in the next year or so, as employers roll this out, they can elect to have their employer match also treated as Roth money.
Yeah, that's huge. Maybe not huge, but it's an efficiency. The employer match, if you think about it from an accounting point of view, which you're a tax guy, if someone deducts it, someone's going to pay taxes on it.
Right.
So if my employer puts in whatever, $4,000 a year, they're going to deduct it as an expense, and then it's going to go into my 401k pre-tax. When I take it out plus the earnings, I'll pay taxes on it. Now, to your point, if you want to, you can elect to have that treated as Roth money. It will be taxable in the year you receive it. We'll wait and see how the IRS and payrolls and W-2s sort all that out.
Feels messy.
It feels messy. So it may, even though it's legal in 2025, it may not be in practice.
Might not be an option yet.
That's exactly right. But that's another way. And we love Roth money. I love Roth money. We'll have other videos on that. But that's a great segue to talk about what is high level. Okay, you have a 401k, you're putting money in. I've got this choice between Roth or pre-tax. Help us out with that one.
Right. So Dan, that covers the employer match portion, the Roth, pre-tax, all that kind of stuff. One thing that people sometimes maybe complain about, or maybe they even like it, investment options in a 401k are somewhat limited. So maybe touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So ERISA, who is the government agency that oversees that, there's certain requirements that a plan has to provide. One of them is always a safe option. Then typically what we'll see is there's like an index fund, an S&P 500 index fund, which we love, and maybe an international mid, small cap, that kind of thing. A lot of plans will allow you to do a survey or some kind of risk-based score and put you in a portfolio, typically at a cost, conservative, moderate, aggressive, whatever it might be. We are big fans from a financial planning point of view of your 401k. That is a long-term tool. Even if you're 60 or 62 or 65, you still hope that money's there for a long time, especially where you're contributing on an ongoing basis. That's going to give me a license to be more aggressive, and I'm going to press on the gas.
Because of the frequency of contribution.
A down market can work for you. That's exactly right. So in your 401k, if you've got more than 5 years, certainly more than 10 years, then you're just going to want to be 2 feet on the gas.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Dan, one other thing I wanted to touch on with those investment options, it's a very common choice in a 401k plan to use a target date fund.
Oh, yes, target date funds.
Oftentimes that's if an employee does not go in and choose anything, they're going to be automatically plugged into a target date fund.
Yep.
The way I like to describe target date funds to clients is that can be a great set it and forget it option.
Yep.
Typically, a target date fund is going to line up with your projected retirement date. The benefit to a target date fund is, quite frankly, I think it helps people to eliminate or decrease the chance of a big mistake from an investment standpoint.
Which is real, especially when people tinker with their 401ks.
That's a big deal.
Yep.
Now, the downside to a target date fund is it may get a little bit more conservative faster than you need it to.
Yeah, that's right.
I think generally speaking, if there's a client that is working with a financial planner who's reviewing their 401k on a regular basis, there's probably a better solution than using the target date fund. But if you're simply an employee who likes to manage things yourself, that target date fund will probably get you where you want to go.
Yeah, if you're a do-it-yourselfer and you would like to have some guardrails and you want to protect yourself from yourself, and especially down markets, and we haven't had a real down market in 15 years. I mean, we've had a couple bear markets, but not a real down market.
Yeah, they've been pretty quick, though.
They've been pretty quick. So target date funds, I don't love them. We don't use them. They are an easy button. That's a great explanation. But they do tend to be more conservative than we think they should be.
Typically a little more cost.
Definitely
the internal cost is a little higher as well.
And all they're doing is they're putting together a portfolio, a fund of funds.
That's right.
And where we would rather in your 401k, where you're contributing, we want to be more aggressive. They tend to be more conservative. And we would rather, in the scope of an overall investment plan, that's our aggressive money there. So that's a great landing spot for us. So my takeaways, here's my key takeaways on 401ks. So if you have an employer that offers a 401k, regardless of how long you think you're going to be there, participate, get involved. Your savings rate, at a minimum, do the match, and then try to ratchet up to 15%. Use your long-term tools for long-term goals, meaning don't be afraid to be aggressive in your 401k. Think Roth. We'll have other videos on Roth. We love Roth money. And our favorite, one of our most favorite, I don't know if that's a phrase, one of our favorite financial planning hacks is the annual auto increase. Set that thing to increase by 1% every year on your birthday. When you get a raise, January 1st, you'll never notice it. And within 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, you're saving 15%, 20%, 25%, maxing out, well on your way to financial security.
Very good. Thanks, Dan.
You bet. Always good to talk 401ks.